Hey, my name is Philip. Today I will show you my new template I've created for Notion. It's a habit tracking template, and the goal of it is, of course, to make tracking habits more transparent, more flexible, and easier. But before we dive into the template, I will show you why we actually should track our habits. So what is the philosophy behind that? If you're interested in habit forming, in maybe changing your identity and becoming a better person, I can really recommend the book Atomic Habits to you. Atomic Habits is written by James Clear, and James Clear gives us a very good and precise definition of habits in his book. So according to him, a habit is the memory of steps you have followed in the past to solve certain problems. So the more often you solve a particular problem, the less energy and willpower you will need to solve it. Because when a routine is formed, it will be actually executed almost automatically by your mind and body. So forming habits is actually some kind of programming or hacking your mind. And with habit forming, you can actually try to become a different, maybe a better person. But here I have a little caveat, because I don't like the term, becoming a better person or becoming the person you always dreamed of becoming or something else. Because in my opinion, self-development is not so much about becoming a different, better person. No. In my opinion, it's mostly about discovering who you are actually. Who is that person? Who is you? And you need to find that out. I think that's the most important question you can ask yourself in your lifetime. Because the main issue is, I think, that we tend to act. We actually try to create identities that are not really fitting to ourselves to appease other persons or the society. And actually that kind of fake identity, that is not your real identity. That identity creates stress, trauma, and depressions. And that makes us maybe unhappy with your work, with your life, and so on. So if you're just forming habits without thinking, there's a huge danger that you're actually just feeding that fake identity that will actually cause much more unhappiness in your life. Therefore, I beg you first to ask yourself who you really are, and then the next step, try to find habits or routines that would fit that person. Of course, that's a long process, and of course, not every habit you will try to form will be the right habit, but you need to start habits to see if they're fitting to you or not. And some habits will work, others not. And that's something you should remember, I think, because if you fail with a particular habit, it's not because you're a loser. Probably it's just something that's not really working for you, and that's okay. We cannot do everything in our lifetime. For example, I tried to form a guitar practicing habit in the last year, and I failed. I could not really motivate myself to do it. And finally, I stopped trying to track that habit, and I think I'm okay with that, because actually I could not really find a way to connect it into my identity, at least not in the stage of my life I'm in now. So it's just not the most important thing for me now, and there are more important things I can do with my time, and therefore there was always some resistance. So in conclusion, it's okay if not every habit is working for you. And that is also one of the reasons why I have created this habit tracker, because it gives me much more flexibility to stop habits that are actually not working for me. So, but Philip, why should we actually track habits? What is actually the motivation behind that? Because it looks like a lot of work if you need to check several habits every day. Why not just execute these habits? Well, it's not that easy. First, if you just tell yourself in your mind that you're going to do certain things, you're probably not going to make or to do them. Why? Because if it's just in your mind does not take it seriously. That's a big problem. It's much easier to motivate yourself for doing something if it's actually written down. If you write something down, it's some kind of, you have it kind of established in reality. It becomes much more real than just a thought in your mind that will vanish in some seconds. Moreover, we humans are really visual persons. So if we see, for example, check boxes and we check them every day and we kind of form a streak, that's a huge motivation for us not to break the streak. I don't know why, but it just feels not right if you have a long streak of, several days to break the streak. It feels terrible to have a day that is not checked. So that's the reason why tracking habits is actually something what's working if you try to establish habits. How long should you do habits on a daily basis before they really become connected with your identity? There's a study that says that you need approximately 66 days before a routine is converted into a habit. Of course, there's a huge variation. So for some habits, you just need several days. And for other habits that are much more harder for you, you need probably several hundred days to actually form them into habits. I think the main thing is the routine you're trying to form into a habit, is it something that's actually aligned with your identity? Or is it something that has nothing to do with your life at the moment? Then it will be much more harder. Thanks to Notion and thanks to a template I've seen from August Bradley on YouTube, I managed to track about 15 habits in the last several months. And I would not do it again like that, but I think it was my first serious attempt to track habits. So it was okay because now I know what I did wrong, and that's the reason why I'm actually recording the video. First, to show you my template, and second, to give you some tips about habit tracking. First, what did I do wrong? Well, tracking 15 habits. That's too much. Don't do it. You will be burned out after several months or maybe even after several days, because it's just a nuisance to track so many things every day, because there's always something in the back of your mind and you always think, I need to do that and that. I've not finished my day. So you're always in a kind of stress state. And I don't think that it is really healthy. It's much better to start small, to start with one habit you want to establish, and after that, maybe a second habit. And if you have managed to actually establish a habit, then you can go on to the next habit. How do you test if you have managed to establish or to form a habit? Well, just stop tracking the habit and then just look, do you do it? Or don't you do it? If you don't do it, maybe you should go on tracking it a little bit longer so that it finally transforms into a habit. For example, you are hopefully brushing your teeth every day, and you don't need to track that. You will do it almost automatically. It will feel, just bad if you don't do it. It will be weird if you leave the house without brushing your teeth, if you're doing it on a daily basis. If you never brush your teeth, you see no reason probably to do it. But most of us have, formed this habit in the childhood, and that's the reason why we just do it without tracking, without Notion. So you don't need fancy things to track small habits. That's my approach. I think it's a little bit different from the approach of August Bradley, who is really tracking things and habits over a really long time, over several months or years. And I think that's actually not necessary. It's much better to just track a couple of things for several weeks or several months. And if you succeeded in transforming them into habits, you can just stop tracking them, and then you just try to find new things that you could track. So if you have a habit tracker, you want to have a high flexibility. It should be easy to start new habits, and it should be easy to remove habits when you have finished tracking them after, let's say, 66 days. And most habit trackers I've seen so far, don't offer that kind of flexibility, at least in Notion. Of course, you have different apps that maybe are better suited for tracking habits. But if you're trying to track habits in Notion, I've seen so far no system that allows you to start and end habits in an easy way without needing to change a lot with your databases and formulas. So far, I've seen 2 ways to track habits in Notion. That's the first approach, and it's the easiest way and the most straightforward way to do it. So here you have a list of the days of the week, Monday till Sunday. And here you have a list of the habits. So let's say habit 1, habit 2, habit 3. And then on Monday, you check if you've done it. Tuesday, you do the same. And you go on through the week. And after 1 week, you can see the pattern of your habit tracking. Let's do some checking here so that it looks more filled out. And let's say, yeah, now you see your performance. You see the days when you fail particular habits. And it's a good system. It's a very easy system to set up. It's not complicated. There are no roll-ups and relations. And if you're just starting out with Notion, I would probably recommend doing it that way because it's just very straightforward and easy. But of course, there are some issues with that kind of habit tracking. For example, what happens next week? So you finished week 1. So what are you doing next week? You are just copying that database, or what do you do? Yes, you can copy it, or you just use the filter and you filter out the habits of week 1. There are many ways to do it, but it's not the best solution to actually track something over a longer period of time. So for example, if you want to look back on your data, what you have tracked, for example, in January 1 year ago, well, you probably don't find the data because you probably just delete it and create a new database. So that is the reason why people like August Bradley came up with a more advanced way of tracking habits in Notion. And here you have the habits as a property, and the columns are actually the days. And now you can have a daily database. So every column is a day in this database, and the properties are the habits you want to track. And if we are doing it like that, of course, you can track habits long time, because if you're not going to delete any days in the database, well, you can look back 1 year, 2 years and see, oh, did I meditate in January? How did I perform with my habits in February or March or whatever? Yeah, that's actually a really good way to track habits. And if you're slightly more advanced with Notion, it's probably not a bad way to track it. But of course, this kind of habit tracking has some issues as well. So for example, you say, okay, I don't want to meditate in the morning anymore. What do? You can hide the property or you can delete it. Yeah, but both is not the most elegant way actually of starting and ending a habit. Or for example, when you have cold calling, that's actually a business habit. You probably don't do it on weekends. But now, for example, I'm not sure if that was actually a weekend, but let's pretend it's Sunday, August something and Sunday. And now, you leave it blank here. But now if you check how much you succeeded last week, you just see, okay, 66.67%. Well, doesn't look too well, but in fact, during the week, during the business days, you probably have succeeded with that habit on every day. But how do you calculate it? You need a formula for that. And the formula, if you change your habit, you actually need to change the formula, because probably the next habit will be something like jogging, and you would just want to go jogging twice a week. So you need a lot of formulas for every situation. It's rather complicated. And yeah, both versions I've showed you work in Notion and you can use them to track habits. But my ambition was to actually combine both ways of tracking habits. I wanted to combine both ways of tracking habits. First, I wanted to link habits to specific days. And second, I wanted to have the habits in the column because it gives me much more flexibility if I link the habits to other databases, for example, to visions. And another thing is I can just click here and now I can actually write instructions or some more things about that particular habits, or maybe a diary, how I'm doing with that kind of habits. So I'm much more flexible compared to habits that are actually here defined in the property. So here we are in my habit tracker template for Notion. And the first thing you see is my vision board, because as I told you before, it's really important to link the habits you want to do with vision, with the visions you have about your life. And of course, if you're going to use this template, you can change the visions to your needs. In this gallery view, you see the statistic of this vision. So that's the accumulation of all the habits that are linked to a specific vision. So you see the performance during all the days, during the current week, the current month, and the current year. And if we change to a table view, we can connect our vision with habits. So we just go to related habits, and now we can just add a habit we want to add. But so far everything is actually added, so we don't need to add something new here. But you see, it can be done in a few seconds. If we scroll down now, you see now a new database, and here you can plan the habits you want to do on a specific day. So normally the view is set for today, but of course you can change it. But I will come back to it later. Here you could add habits manually, but it's not the most efficient way to do it. Much quicker is it if you just use the filter and you just select some habits. For example, water, drink a no, we already had water. Let's use something else. What don't we have here? Reading one page of a book per day. And if we now click on new column, all the habits are created in an instance. And now we say 26th of August 2021. That's today. And now we can check the habits. So during the day, we just can click here and say, we did the habit, we did the cold shower, yes. Then we click here. Did we drink enough water? Yes. Then we click here. Did we go jogging? No. Then we don't click here. Did we read something? Yes. Then we click here. And you see you have 10 properties, and you can actually track up to 10 habits every day. But I would not recommend to track as many habits as I told you before. And here now we have habit 6. So let's say that we are actually tracking a 6th habit. Let's say chess puzzle. Okay. And you see it, thanks to formula, now it's already automatically updated. So every time you create a relation to a property, so you relate a habit to one of the habit properties, it will be shown here. And if you are now, let's say you want to remove reading, of course now the filter is the reason why we don't see it here anymore. But now we see here that reading disappeared. So you're really flexible in starting new habits, ending new habits. Let's change the view to current week. And let's say that we don't want to track jogging today because, for example, we just want to go jogging twice a week, and today is not our jogging day. So we'll just remove jogging from the habit tracking. And what happens here in the checkbox view? So you see that jogging disappeared. It's not tracked anymore. And that is thanks to some formulas I've created so that these properties are always updating depending on which habits you are linking to the properties. Of course, you can just link one habit to a property. I told you before that you don't want to track every habit every day. So probably on the weekend, you want to track different things than during the business week. That is the reason why I have provided several views you can just select depending on what you want to track. For example, there's a weekend view. So on the weekend, for example, we are just tracking jogging because we are not doing any other things. Or you can use the view core habits. Why core habits? That is for days when you can just do the most important things because you have so many other things going on. And you still don't want to count it as a failure because you're actually productive. So you just focus on doing your core habits. One important thing, if you want to track a habit, it must be selected here. It must be shown here. Otherwise, you cannot check it and it will not be shown in the habit statistics. The habit statistic, the habit status is the next thing we are seeing here. So you see the performance of all the habits during the times. So that is for all the days it was active. That is in the current week. So Anki was inactive because we never tracked it in the current week. In August, we tracked it several times and we had been very successful. So 100% of the days we wanted to track Anki. So for example, learning vocabularies with Anki, we checked it 100% of the times. But in the year 2021, we see that our performance was just 50%. So not as good as it could be. Call a friend, that is a social habit. And the goal of it is to create deeper connections with your social circle. And we see that it was a really successful habit. So we reached 100% in all the tracked time periods. And we can go on and check all the habits we have actually created so far. If it's green, we know that we are doing good. So if it's more than 9% checked, it will turn green. Orange is if it's more than 50%. And if we just check it less than 50%, then our light here will turn red. And that's a sign that we really should try to do better, or maybe it's not the right habit for us. So we should probably just remove the habit. I have prepared a list of a couple of habits here. But of course, if you think there are some different habits you want to track, you can easily just add a new habit here. Just click here and let's call it habit new. And now you can also apply a category. You can write some instructions. You can, or you should actually relate it to a vision. And here you can say at which time of the day you want to do it. And that is my habit tracking database. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. If you want to check the performance of habits over the time, you can go, for example, to the weekly view. And here you see the performance in the current week. But of course, sometimes you want to see the performance in the past. And for that, I've created a different view. If you know the August-Bradley system, it will not be new for you. If you've never used the August-Bradley system, I will explain it to you now. I've created a different database for the weekly view. So you just create a new week. That's a calendar week 31. Now I think we will be in the week 33. And here you see the performance of all the habits, but of course you can go into all the 10 properties. And let's click off habit 1. So you see habit 1 in this week, you performed 100% and you linked meditate with it. So of course, over the time period, the linked habits will change, but you will always see what kind of habit was linked to the specific week. And you can do it for a monthly review. That's a monthly review database. And of course, for an annual review, you're doing once a year, and then you can look back how you actually perform with your habits. How do you link a year to the habits? You use a relation and roll-up. And here it's important that when you are creating a new day and you are linking the habits to a new day, that you are also linking it to the current month, the current week, and the current year. So if you want to do that kind of tracking, of course, you can use the filter. It will make it much easier if you use that kind of view. That is my habit tracking template for Notion. I hope you liked the video. Thank you very much for watching. And last question. What do you think about the template? Would you prefer an easier version? Or do you think that is the right template for you? That is a template you can use for your habit tracking journey. Let me know in the comments. And if you're interested in getting this template, just click on the link in the description. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time. Ciao, ciao.